The water cup pressed against Naomi's lips before she could scream. Cold marble bit into her knees, designer shopping bags scattered around her like fallen soldiers. And Marcus's fingers dug into her jaw with the same cruelty that had once left her homeless. For a heartbeat, the entire luxury mall restroom went silent. Cameras flashed. Strangers gasped. Nobody moved. Naomi looked up from the floor, water dripping down her chin, at the man towering over her with that familiar sneer. Marcus, her ex-boyfriend, the man who'd drained her bank accounts 2 years ago and left her with nothing but debt and trauma. "Drink," he snarled, forcing the cup closer to her mouth. "This is where trash like you belongs." He had no idea who she was anymore. No idea that the broken woman he remembered, the one who'd begged him not to leave, who'd slept in her car with $23 to her name, who'd cried herself to sleep for months after he destroyed her, was gone. No idea that she'd rebuilt herself in soul, stronger and sharper than before. No idea about the platinum wedding band hidden beneath her black leather gloves, the penthouse overlooking Gangnam she'd left that morning, or the black card in her purse that knew no limits. And Marcus definitely had no idea about the man whose name was now legally attached to hers, the man whose security guard was currently being restrained by mall officers 10 feet away, the man whose phone was vibrating in her purse right now. Sung-Ho Park, her husband, Seoul's most feared underground king. As Naomi's trembling fingers fumbled for her phone and Sung-Ho's lethally calm voice asked, "Where are you? Are you safe?" She watched comprehension begin to dawn across Marcus's face like a death sentence. He just humiliated the wrong woman. And in approximately 7 minutes, when Sung-Ho's black motorcade tore into this mall's underground garage, Marcus was going to learn a lesson about consequences that would annihilate his entire existence. But he didn't know it yet. Right now, in this frozen moment with water dripping from her face and a crowd recording her degradation, he still thought she was nothing. That was about to change. Let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever had a Marcus in your life? Someone who made you feel worthless? Someone who got away with it? Then you already know why you need to subscribe. Because this channel is where karma isn't just a concept. It's a guarantee. Thousands of people here have survived their own nightmare. And we don't just watch these stories. We feel them. We celebrate when justice happens. And if you're sitting here nodding along, feeling this in your chest, but you're not subscribed, you're robbing yourself of this community. Subscribe. You've already found your people. Naomi stood in their walk-in closet, running her fingers over silk and cashmere, finally selecting a simple black coat. Despite the luxury surrounding her, rows of designer labels hanging like expensive art, she still gravitated toward quiet elegance, old survival instincts from harder days. "You're doing it again," Sung-Ho said from the doorway, already dressed in a charcoal suit that fit him like lethal precision. He was devastatingly handsome, his dark eyes sharp, his presence commanding even in their private sanctuary. "Doing what?" She turned, adjusting her scarf. "Choosing the least expensive things in your closet." He crossed to her, sliding his hands around her waist with practiced ease. "You're married to one of the most powerful men in Seoul. Stop dressing like you're still counting pennies." She laughed softly. "I like understated things. I like showing the world you're mine." He kissed her temple. "Humor me. You humor me by keeping me safe without suffocating me." His expression shifted, protective instincts flaring. "Where are you going today?" "The Myeongdong Luxury Mall. Just some shopping. I won't be long." Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Sung-ho was protective, to the point of obsession, a reality she both cherished and occasionally found overwhelming. Take Ji-hoon and Tae-sung with you. I don't need bodyguards to buy scarves, Sung-ho. His jaw hardened. Naomi, you know what I am, what I control. You know the enemies that creates. You don't leave this house without security. Non-negotiable. The steel in his voice was absolute. This was Sung-ho Park, underground emperor, speaking. Not just her husband. She cupped his face. Okay, I'll take them. Tension drained from his shoulders. Thank you. He checked his watch, solid platinum, understated but obscenely expensive. I have a meeting across town. I'll be home by 6. We have reservations at 8. Where? It's a surprise. That dangerous smile returned. Wear the burgundy dress, the one that makes me forget we have dinner plans. Heat flooded her cheeks. You're impossible. Only for you. One more kiss, deep and claiming, before he left her breathless. 2 hours later, Naomi walked through the Myeongdong luxury mall with Ji-hoon and Tae-sung maintaining professional distance. The mall was a temple of wealth. Polished marble reflecting crystal chandeliers, every storefront a monument to excess. Holiday decorations glittering in gold and crimson. She'd just exited a boutique, bags in hand, when she needed to use the restroom. The women's restroom was pristine, all white marble and ambient lighting. She was washing her hands when the door swung open behind her. And Marcus walked in. Her ex-boyfriend. The man who'd stolen her savings and vanished. The man who'd left her homeless and broken. The man whose betrayal had nearly killed her. He looked exactly the same. Same arrogant posture, same expensive cologne, same contempt in his eyes when he recognized her. Well, well, Marcus said, blocking the doorway. Look who crawled out from under whatever rock she's been hiding under. Naomi's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. Get out of my way, Marcus? Or what? He stepped closer, and she saw it then, that same cruel pleasure he used to take in making her small. You gonna call someone? You got nobody, Naomi. You've always been nothing. That's when his hand shot out and grabbed her jaw. 2 years earlier, Chicago. Naomi met Marcus on a Tuesday that felt like destiny. He was charming in that effortless way that made you feel chosen. Dark eyes that crinkled when he smiled, a laugh that filled rooms, hands that held hers like she was something precious. He worked in sales, talked about building an empire, dreamed out loud about the life they'd create together. You and me, Nay, he'd whisper against her temple. We're going to make it. I promise you forever. And she believed him. God, how she believed him. The first 6 months were magic. Marcus showed up with flowers, remembered her coffee order, called her beautiful in that breathless way that made her heart stutter. He talked about marriage, about kids, about growing old together in a house with a wraparound porch. Then came the subtle shifts. Baby, I'm a little short this month. Can you cover rent? Followed by, my car payment's due. You don't mind, right? Then, I need to invest in this opportunity. It's going to set us up for life. Just this once. Except it was never just once. Naomi worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day, bartending at night. She'd come home exhausted, feet aching, smelling like grease and beer. And Marcus would be on the couch, scrolling through his phone, complaining about how tired he was from his meetings. You're being dramatic, he'd say when she asked about the money. Couples support each other. Or are you saying you don't believe in me? The manipulation was surgical. He made her feel guilty for asking questions, made her feel small for wanting accountability, made her feel lucky he stayed when she was so negative all the time. Her savings evaporated, first hundreds, then thousands. She stopped checking her bank account because the numbers made her physically sick. Then one morning, she woke up alone. Marcus was gone, apartment cleaned out. Her debit card declined at the coffee shop. Her accounts drained to negative balances. Debt collectors started calling that afternoon. He'd left her with nothing but a text message. "You were holding me back. Don't contact me." The next 3 months were a descent into hell. Eviction notice. Car repossessed. Friends stopped answering because she'd borrowed too much, asked too many times. She slept in a shelter, then in her cousin's garage, then finally nowhere at all. She remembered hunger as an ache that became background noise, depression as a weight that made breathing feel optional, nights on park benches wondering if hypothermia would be peaceful. There was a moment, standing on a bridge at 3 a.m. with empty pockets and emptier hope, when Naomi looked down at the black water and thought, this would be easier. But something in her refused to let Marcus win. She climbed down from that bridge, walked to a 24-hour diner, and asked for a job application. The manager took pity on her, let her work for tips and day-old food. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Naomi worked, saved, rebuilt. Dollar by dollar, shift by shift, she clawed her way back to breathing. Then fate intervened in the form of a scholarship opportunity, teaching English in Seoul. It was random, desperate, a Hail Mary application she'd submitted at 2 a.m. on a library computer. They accepted her. 6 weeks later, Naomi stepped off a plane into a country where nobody knew her story, where she could be anyone, where the wreckage of Marcus didn't follow her through familiar streets. Seoul was overwhelming. Neon lights and language barriers and loneliness that felt like drowning. But Naomi had survived worse. She threw herself into teaching, into learning Korean, into becoming someone new. She vowed she would never be powerless again. Never trust carelessly. Never ignore red flags. Never let anyone make her feel small. 9 months. After arriving in Seoul, Naomi was leaving her favorite late-night convenience store, arms full of instant ramen and coffee, when she collided with someone in the doorway. Everything scattered. She dropped to her knees, apologizing in broken Korean, scrambling to gather her things. Then a hand appeared in her line of vision. Strong, elegant, expensive watch catching the fluorescent light. "Let me help," a voice said in perfect English, low and calm. Naomi looked up. The man was striking. Tailored black coat, dark eyes that assessed her with unsettling intensity. Presence that made the convenience store feel too small. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits stood at attention. Something about him felt dangerous, powerful, like standing too close to a live wire. But his hands were gentle as he helped gather her dropped items. And when their eyes met, something shifted in the air between them. "Thank you," Naomi managed. "You're American," he observed, straightening to his full height. "Is it that obvious?" The smallest hint of a smile. "You're Korean is better than you think." He handed her the bag of ramen. "Be careful walking alone this late." Before she could respond, he was gone, sliding into a black car that looked like it cost more than her entire year's salary. Naomi stood there, heart racing for reasons she didn't understand, watching the taillights disappear into Seoul's electric night. She didn't know his name yet. Didn't know that brief collision would rewrite her entire future. But Sung-ho Park had just entered her life, and nothing would ever be the same. Sung-ho Park didn't do coincidences. 3 days after the convenience store encounter, Naomi found him sitting in the back corner of the cafe, where she graded papers every Thursday evening. Same tailored coat, same unsettling intensity. A cup of black coffee untouched in front of him. "You're following me," she said, more curious than afraid. "I'm ensuring you're safe." His directness was disarming. Seoul can be dangerous for women alone at night. I've survived worse than dangerous cities. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Respect. "I believe you." He didn't ask to join her, simply moved to her table as if it had always been his destination. For the next 2 hours, they talked. He asked questions that actually listened to answers. Noticed details others missed. Never once made her feel like a conquest. When she finally asked what he did for a living, he answered with careful honesty. "I solve problems that conventional systems can't handle." That's impressively vague. It's intentionally vague. A slight smile. "But I'm never dishonest with people who matter." "And I matter?" "You will." The courtship was slow, deliberate, nothing like Marcus's whirlwind chaos. Sung-ho appeared in her life like clockwork. Thursday cafe visits became Saturday dinners. He never pushed, never demanded, never made her feel obligated. He gave her space to breathe while making it clear he wasn't going anywhere. He learned her coffee order, her favorite walking routes, the way she unconsciously touched her empty wallet before buying anything. He noticed when she flinched at raised voices, when she deflected compliments, when old trauma bled into present moments. "Someone hurt you," he said one evening, watching her reaction when a server dropped a glass. Naomi's walls went up instantly. "That's not your business." "You're right. It's not." He waited, patient as stone. "But when you're ready to tell me, I'll listen. And whoever did it will regret they were ever born." The promise wasn't romantic. It was a statement of fact, delivered with such cold certainty that Naomi believed him completely. 6 weeks into knowing him, Naomi finally broke. They were in his car, parked outside her tiny apartment, and something about the safety of darkness made confession possible. She told him everything. Marcus, the financial abuse, the homelessness, the bridge at 3 a.m. Sung-ho's hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles white, but his voice remained steady. His full name. "Why?" "Because I need to know who to erase if he ever comes near you again." "Sung-ho." He turned to her, and she saw it then. The barely controlled violence simmering beneath his elegant surface. This was the man Soul whispered about. The underground king. The one whose name made powerful men nervous. "I will never let anyone hurt you again," he said quietly. "Do you understand me?" "Never." For the first time since Marcus destroyed her, Naomi felt safe enough to cry. Sung-ho held her while she shattered. Didn't offer empty platitudes or rush her healing. Just gave her his strength until she could find her own again. The relationship deepened slowly, built on radical honesty. He told her exactly what he was. The empire he controlled, the violence he commanded, the enemies he'd made. He gave her every reason to run. She stayed. Because Sung-ho never made her feel weak for surviving trauma. Never treated her brokenness as something to fix. He saw her scars and called them proof of strength. He gave her stability without suffocation, security without ownership, love without conditions. "Marry me," he said 8 months later. "No ring, no performance, just truth. Not because you need me, but because I need you to know you'll never face the world alone again." Naomi said yes, It was small, intimate. Nothing like the fairy tale Marcus had promised and never delivered. Just a handful of trusted people in a private garden. Naomi in simple white silk, Sung-ho in black, looking at her like she was his entire universe. When he slid the platinum band onto her finger, he whispered against her temple, "You're mine now, under my protection. Anyone who ever hurt you will answer to me." It should have sounded possessive. Instead, it sounded like freedom. Naomi became Mrs. Park, gained wealth she'd never imagined, power she never sought. But she never lost herself. Still taught English, still remembered hunger, still treated people with kindness Marcus had tried to beat out of her. Sung-ho loved her more for it. Sung-ho was in a meeting across town when his phone buzzed. Ji-hoon's name flashed on the screen. His head of security never called during business hours unless it was urgent. "Speak." "Sir, there's a situation. Your wife, she's in the Myeongdong Mall restroom. A man followed her inside. We lost visual. She's not responding to comms." The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Sung-ho stood, every man at the conference table going silent. "Lock down the mall. Nobody leaves. I'm en route." "Sir, should we? If anyone touches my wife before I arrive, they die. Am I clear?" "Yes, sir." Sung-ho was already moving, phone pressed to his ear, dialing Naomi's number. His driver appeared instantly, the motorcade forming before he reached the lobby. The call connected. "Naomi." His voice was lethal calm. "Where are you? Are you safe?" And then he heard it. Background noise. Cruel laughter. A familiar voice he'd spent months tracking, waiting for an excuse to destroy. Marcus. Sung-ho's grip tightened on the phone. "I'm coming. Hold on." 7 minutes. Marcus had 7 minutes of freedom left. Then judgment would arrive. The motorcade moved through Seoul like a black storm. 3 SUVs, windows tinted beyond legal limits, cutting through traffic with the kind of authority that made other drivers instinctively pull aside. Sung-ho sat in the middle vehicle, posture relaxed, expression carved from ice. Only his white knuckles on his knee betrayed the violence coiling beneath his surface. "ETA?" His voice was surgical precision. 4 minutes, sir," the driver responded, accelerating through a red light. Police cars that should have stopped them didn't. Traffic cameras that should have recorded them mysteriously malfunctioned. In Seoul's underground, Sung-ho Park's name was law. When he moved, the city bent. "Ji-hoon, status." His head of security's voice crackled through the comm. "Mall security has been neutralized. Our men control all exits. No one leaves without your approval. Cameras in the restroom corridor have experienced technical difficulties." "And my wife?" A pause. "Still inside with the target. He's escalating, sir." Sung-ho's jaw tightened. "If he touches her again before I arrive, remove his hands." "Copy that." Marcus had Naomi's phone now, scrolling through it with that same entitled smirk she remembered from 2 years ago. "Sung-ho Park?" He laughed, reading the caller ID. "What is this, Nay? You paying some Korean guy to pretend to be your boyfriend?" He tossed the phone aside. Pathetic. "You're still the same desperate." The restroom door opened. Not violently, not dramatically. Just a smooth, controlled motion that somehow made every person in that bathroom go silent. The crowd that had been recording, whispering, frozen in voyeuristic horror, they all felt it. A shift in air pressure. A primal warning that something apex had entered the room. Sung-ho Park stepped inside. He was immaculate. Charcoal suit without a single crease. Dark overcoat that probably cost more than Marcus's car. But it wasn't the clothes that made people step back. It was the aura of controlled violence, the kind of power that didn't need to announce itself. Behind him, 6 men in black materialized. Not rushing, not aggressive, just there, blocking exits, controlling space with the efficiency of predators who'd done this 1,000 times. Marcus was still smirking, oblivious. "Listen, buddy. I don't know what this chick told you, but..." Sung-Ho's eyes found Naomi, on her knees, water dripping from her face, bruises forming on her jaw, shopping bags scattered like evidence of normalcy destroyed. Something fractured behind his carefully controlled expression. He crossed the room in 4 strides, and Marcus finally felt the first whisper of fear. But before the idiot could react, Sung-Ho was kneeling beside Naomi, blocking her from view, his large frame suddenly gentle. "Naomi." His voice was soft, meant only for her. "Look at me." She did. Tears streaming, and something in Sung-Ho's chest cracked and reformed into pure, incandescent rage. His hands were impossibly gentle as he cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears. He checked her jaw where Marcus had gripped it, his expression darkening at the visible marks. "Did he force you to kneel?" The question was barely a whisper. Naomi nodded. Sung-Ho closed his eyes for 1 second. 2, mastering himself. Then he leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. "I'm here now. You're safe." He stood slowly, helping Naomi to her feet with the kind of reverence reserved for something sacred. He removed his overcoat, draped it around her shoulders, and positioned her behind him. Then Sung-Ho turned to face Marcus, and the temperature in the restroom plummeted. "Everyone out," Sung-Ho said quietly, "except him." The crowd scattered. Some ran. Others were escorted by his men with efficient politeness. Within 30 seconds, the restroom was empty except for Sung-Ho, Naomi, Marcus, and 4 of Sung-Ho's security team. The door locked with a soft click. Marcus tried bravado one more time. "Listen, man. I don't know who you think you are, but my name is Sung-Ho Park." His voice was conversational, almost pleasant. "That woman you just assaulted is my wife. And you've made a mistake that will cost you everything you have, everything you are, and everything you could have been." Reality finally crashed into Marcus, his face drained of color. "Wait. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't know." Sung-Ho took 1 step forward. "You thought she was still the woman you destroyed, still powerless, still beneath you." Another step. "You thought you could humiliate her in public, force her to kneel, make her drink like an animal." Marcus backed against the marble counter, hands up. "I was joking. I didn't mean..." Did she look like she was laughing? Silence. Sung-Ho glanced at Ji-hoon. "Has the building been secured?" "Yes, sir. Perimeter locked. Media managed. Local authorities aware of our presence and choosing discretion." "Good." Sung-Ho returned his attention to Marcus, and his next words carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Your life as you knew it ended the moment you touched her. What happens next depends entirely on how much mercy my wife asks me to show you." He looked over his shoulder at Naomi, expression softening instantly. "What would you like me to do with him?" Naomi's voice was steady despite her tears. "Make sure he never hurts anyone again." Sung-Ho smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Marcus had ever seen. "As you wish." Sung-Ho didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. He crossed the distance between them in 2 measured steps, and before Marcus could process the movement, Sung-Ho's hand was around his throat. Not choking, not yet. just holding him with the casual strength of someone who'd done this countless times before. Then he lifted. Marcus's feet left the ground. His hands clawed at Sung-Ho's wrist, panic flooding his system as he dangled like a puppet with cut strings. The restroom door had reopened, security guards and mall staff frozen in the doorway, witnessing but not intervening. Someone gasped. Phones appeared, then quickly disappeared when Sung-Ho's men stepped forward with silent warnings. "You made my wife kneel," Sung-Ho said conversationally, as if discussing the weather while holding a grown man suspended by his throat. "Now you kneel before me." He released. Marcus crashed to the marble floor, knees hitting first with a sickening crack. He gasped for air, disoriented, trying to scramble backward. But Sung-Ho's shoe pressed against his chest, pinning him in place with effortless pressure. "Stay down." The command was soft, absolute. Marcus stayed down. "Ji-hoon," Sung-Ho said without looking away from Marcus. "The associates he arrived with?" "3 men, sir. Currently in the food court, being detained as we speak." "Bring them here." Within 2 minutes, 3 men were escorted into the restroom by Sung-Ho's security. They looked confused at first, then terrified when they saw Marcus on the floor and understood exactly who was standing over him. "These are your friends?" Sung-Ho asked Marcus. "The ones who watched you assault my wife and did nothing?" Marcus couldn't speak, just nodded frantically. Sung-Ho addressed the 3 men without emotion. "Each of you will give a statement confirming what happened here today. Video testimony, notarized. You'll describe in detail how this man forced my wife to her knees and attempted to make her drink toilet water. You'll confirm he assaulted her unprovoked." One of them, bolder or stupider than the others, spoke up. "Why would we do that?" Sung-Ho finally looked at him. Just looked. The man's bravado evaporated. "Because if you don't," Sung-Ho continued pleasantly, "I'll ensure your employment contracts are terminated by morning, your rental agreements voided, your credit lines frozen, your social circles informed of exactly what kind of men you are." He paused. "Or you can tell the truth, cooperate fully, and walk away with your lives intact." The 3 men looked at each other, at Marcus, at the exit. "We'll cooperate," they said in unison. "Wise choice. Escort them out." Alone again, Sung-Ho crouched beside Marcus, who was now crying, all arrogance stripped away. "Please," Marcus whimpered. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. If I'd known she was married to you. So you only regret it because of who I am?" Sung-Ho's voice was clinical. "Not because you're a man who abuses women? Not because you once stole from her, left her homeless, destroyed her mentally and financially?" Marcus's eyes went wide. "How do you—" "I know everything about you, Marcus. Your address, your employer, your bank accounts, your parents' names, your fiancée, Jessica, who thinks you're working late tonight." Sung-Ho's smile was surgical. "I've known for 8 months. Been waiting for you to make a mistake that would justify what I'm about to do to you." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to dismantle your life piece by piece." Sung-Ho stood, brushing invisible dust from his suit. "By morning, your employer will receive documentation of financial irregularities in your expense reports. Falsified, of course, but convincing. You'll be terminated and blacklisted. No. Your landlord will receive notice of lease violations. Eviction proceedings will begin." He checked his watch. "Your bank will flag suspicious activity on your accounts. Everything frozen pending investigation. That will take weeks to resolve, maybe months." Marcus was shaking now, understanding dawning. Your fiancé will receive an anonymous packet containing evidence of your affair with your coworker. Time-stamped photos, hotel receipts, text messages. Sung-ho tilted his head. That affair doesn't exist, by the way. But the evidence is immaculate. You can't. I already have. Sung-ho's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Ah, your termination just processed. That was fast. Marcus collapsed forward, forehead touching the floor, sobbing. Please, I'll do anything. I'll apologize. I'll leave Seoul. You'll do exactly what I tell you to do. Sung-ho crouched again, gripping Marcus's chin, forcing eye contact. Tomorrow morning, you'll hold a press conference. You'll confess publicly to what you did. To Naomi and to your other victims. Yes, I found them too. You'll detail your abuse patterns. You'll apologize sincerely. I'll be destroyed? You should have thought of that before you touched my wife. Sung-ho released him with disgust. This is mercy, Marcus. Be grateful I'm giving you the chance to confess rather than simply erasing you. He stood, turning to Naomi, who'd been watching everything with an expression he couldn't quite read. Are you satisfied? She looked at Marcus, sobbing on the floor, and felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just tired relief that it was ending. I want to go home, she said quietly. Sung-ho was beside her instantly, arm around her shoulders. Then we go home. As they walked out, Sung-ho issued one final instruction to Ji-hoon without breaking stride. Begin phase 2. I want his entire world gone by sunrise. Yes, sir. The restroom door closed behind them, leaving Marcus alone with his ruin. The king had passed judgment. The execution had begun. Real talk. How many of you right now are feeling that satisfaction? That justice is finally coming energy? Comment karma if Marcus's face hitting that floor made something in your chest feel lighter. Because this is what we do here. We don't just watch stories where bad people win. We watch stories where survivors become warriors, where abusers face consequences. And if you're feeling this right now, if your heart is racing because you finally get to see what accountability looks like, but you're not subscribed, you're missing out on the only place on YouTube that gives you this feeling consistently. Subscribe. You've already invested this much time. Finish what you started. Join us. The first video hit social media at 6:47 a.m. Naomi was still asleep when Sung-ho's phone started buzzing with notifications. He silenced it, watching her rest. The bruises on her jaw, darker now in the morning light. She'd cried herself to sleep in his arms last night, exhausted from reliving trauma she'd worked so hard to bury. He kissed her forehead gently, then stepped into his study and closed the door. Ji-hoon was already on video call, looking like he hadn't slept. Sir, it's spreading faster than projected. We're at 2 million views across platforms. Major news outlets are picking it up. Good. What's the narrative? Exactly as we designed. Anonymous witnesses posted bathroom footage, faces blurred except for Marcus. Audio is crystal clear. Him forcing her down, the water cup, his words. Ji-hoon paused. Public sentiment is overwhelmingly in Mrs. Park's favor. The hashtag Justice for Naomi is trending globally. Sung-ho allowed himself a cold smile. And Marcus? In hiding. His phone's been disconnected, but it won't matter. Phase 2 launched an hour ago. Phase 2. Financial Obliteration by Chiryim. 8 a.m. Financial documents began circulating online. Marcus's bank records, meticulously altered to show patterns of embezzlement. Credit card statements revealing luxury purchases while claiming poverty to various women. Venmo transactions that painted a picture of systematic manipulation. His employer's HR department received an anonymous tip with documentation they couldn't ignore. By 9 a.m., Marcus was terminated via email. No severance. Security would pack his desk. His landlord received notice of lease violations backed by fabricated evidence of property damage. Eviction proceedings filed by 10 a.m. Every credit card he owned was suddenly flagged for suspicious activity. Accounts frozen pending investigation that would conveniently take months to resolve. Phase 3. Social destruction. At 11 a.m., 3 women came forward. Former girlfriends, all with eerily similar stories. Financial abuse, emotional manipulation, abandonment when they had nothing left to take. Their testimonies, coordinated by Sung Ho's team but entirely authentic in pain, flooded news outlets. "He made me feel crazy for asking where my money went," one woman told reporters, crying. "Naomi isn't alone. There are so many of us." The media frenzy exploded. Think pieces about financial abuse, op-eds about toxic masculinity. Marcus's face plastered across every screen with captions like "The Predator Next Door" and "How One Man Destroyed Multiple Women." Jessica, Marcus's fiancée, posted a tearful video at noon. "I had no idea who he really was. I'm so sorry to all his victims. I'm leaving him immediately." She was holding a packed suitcase, standing outside their apartment, ring already removed. The video went viral within minutes. Sympathy poured in for her too, another woman deceived by Marcus's charm. By 2 p.m., Marcus's parents released a statement through their lawyer. "We are horrified by our son's actions. We do not condone abuse in any form. Effective immediately, Marcus is no longer welcome in our family or our home." His friends, the ones who'd been with him at the mall, publicly distanced themselves. Social media posts deleted, tags removed, mutual connections severed. Marcus had become radioactive, untouchable, alone. But while Marcus burned, Naomi became a symbol. The video footage showed her dignity even in degradation, the way she'd held herself together, the quiet strength when Sung Ho arrived. Women everywhere saw themselves in her trauma. Support flooded in from across the world. This woman survived homelessness and abuse and still rebuilt her life. That's power. The way her husband protected her without making it about him? That's real love. Every woman who's ever been gaslighted by a narcissist feels this. Justice for Naomi. Sung Ho's reputation, already fearsome, gained a new dimension. He was still the underground king, still dangerous, but the world now knew he was devastatingly loyal. Men feared him. Women admired the partnership he'd built with Naomi. Together, they became untouchable. But inside their penthouse, away from the world's eyes, Naomi was fracturing. She sat on their bathroom floor at 3 p.m., knees pulled to her chest, phone showing endless notifications. Her trauma was global entertainment now. Her worst moments replayed millions of times. "I can't breathe," she whispered when Sung Ho found her. He lowered himself to the floor beside her, pulling her into his arms. "Then breathe with me." He pressed her, hand to his chest, letting her feel his steady heartbeat. "In, out, you're safe. Everyone knows now. Everyone's seen me on my knees. They're talking about me like I'm some victim who... You are not a victim." His voice was firm but gentle. "You're a survivor who rebuilt herself. That's what they see. Not weakness. Strength. I didn't want this attention. I didn't want the whole world. I know." He cupped her face, making her look at him. But this attention protects you. Marcus can never touch you again. No one can. Because now the entire world is watching. They'll defend you before I even need to. Tears spilled over. I'm so tired of being strong. Then don't be. Not right now. He held her tighter. Be tired. Be scared. Be angry. I'll be strong enough for both of us. They sat there for an hour. Sung-ho's arms wrapped around her, his chin resting on her head, while the world outside churned with rage on her behalf. Finally, Naomi's breathing steadied. What happens to Marcus now? Whatever you want to happen. She was quiet for a long moment. I want him to understand what he did. Really understand. Not just apologize because he's scared. Then that's what we'll make happen. Sung-ho kissed her temple. The world will never hurt you again, Naomi. I promise you that. And wrapped in his arms, with millions of strangers defending her honor, Naomi finally believed him. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, exactly 1 week after the mall incident. Sung-ho had arranged everything with the precision of a military operation. A hotel conference room in downtown Seoul. Every major news outlet invited. Cameras positioned for maximum coverage. No escape routes for Marcus except through the truth. You don't have to watch, Sung-ho told Naomi that morning, buttoning his cufflinks. I can handle this alone. But Naomi shook her head. I need to see it. I need to see him face what he did. So they sat together in Sung-ho's private office, watching the live feed on the large monitor. His hand held hers, thumb tracing circles on her palm, steady and grounding. Marcus walked onto the stage at 2:03 p.m. He looked destroyed. Suit wrinkled, face gaunt, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. The confident, smirking man who'd forced Naomi to her knees was gone. In his place stood someone who'd been systematically dismantled, piece by piece, until only a shell remained. 2 security guards flanked him, not for protection, but to ensure he didn't run. The room went silent. Camera flashes erupted like lightning. Marcus flinched at every click, every whisper, every hostile stare from the assembled reporters. He approached the microphone with trembling hands, unfolding a piece of paper he'd clearly written and rewritten multiple times. His lawyer had tried to craft something strategic, but Sung-ho's team had made it clear. Only complete, unvarnished truth would be acceptable. Marcus cleared his throat. Once, twice, then began to speak, voice cracking immediately. My name is Marcus Wellington, and I am an abuser. The room erupted. Cameras zoomed in, reporters leaned forward. This wasn't a carefully worded non-apology. This was confession. 1 week ago, I assaulted a woman named Naomi Park in a public restroom. His voice broke. I forced her to her knees. I tried to make her drink toilet water. I humiliated her in front of strangers because I wanted to feel powerful. Tears started streaming down his face. Not performative crying. Real, ugly, broken sobbing. But that wasn't the first time I heard her. He looked directly at the camera, and Naomi felt Sung-ho's hand tighten around hers. 2 years ago, I was in a relationship with Naomi. She loved me, trusted me, supported me financially when I had nothing. And I destroyed her. Marcus detailed everything. The financial manipulation, draining her accounts, leaving her homeless. The pattern of emotional abuse designed to keep her dependent and powerless. I stole from her. I gaslit her. I made her believe she was worthless without me. His voice shattered completely. And when she had nothing left to give, I abandoned her with debt and trauma and... He couldn't continue for a moment, crying too hard to speak. The press conference room was utterly silent except for his sobs. I did the same thing to other women. Sarah, Michelle, Jennifer. He named them, each one a confession. I targeted vulnerable women. I took everything from them. I made them feel crazy for questioning me. I am a predator. A reporter shouted a question, but Marcus held up his hand. I'm not here for questions. I'm here to apologize. He looked directly at the camera again. Naomi, I am so deeply sorry. You deserved better. You deserved love and partnership and respect. And I gave you cruelty. I destroyed you because I was broken, and that is unforgivable. His legs gave out. He collapsed against the podium, security catching him before he hit the floor. I don't expect forgiveness. He sobbed into the microphone. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that what happened was not your fault. It was never your fault. You were always worthy. I was always the problem. The broadcast cut to a commercial break as Marcus was helped off stage, still crying, completely shattered. Naomi stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Sung-ho studied her face. What are you feeling? She waited for satisfaction, for vindication, for the rush of victory she'd imagined during her darkest moments after Marcus left her homeless. But all she felt was nothing. Empty. Neutral. Free. I don't feel anything, she whispered, almost surprised. I thought I'd feel happy seeing him broken. But I just feel... done. That's because it's over. Sung-ho turned her chair toward him, kneeling so they were eye level. He can't hurt you anymore. He confessed publicly. He's accountable. And you're free of him. I'm free of him, she repeated, testing the words. They felt true, real, liberating. For 2 years, Marcus had lived rent-free in her trauma, a ghost that haunted her survival. But watching him destroyed hadn't given her peace. Realizing she no longer cared about his suffering, that was peace. She wasn't angry, wasn't vindictive, wasn't even satisfied. She was simply free. That night, for the first time since the mall incident, Naomi slept peacefully. No nightmares, no waking in panic, no phantom grip on her jaw or cruel laughter echoing in darkness. Sung-ho held her close, feeling the moment her body finally relaxed completely. The tension she'd carried for years melting away. It's over, he whispered into her hair. And finally, Naomi believed him. The world had witnessed Marcus's ruin. Justice had been served publicly, brutally, completely. But the real victory wasn't his destruction. It was Naomi's indifference to it. That emptiness where rage used to live. That was freedom. And in Sung-ho's arms, wrapped in safety and genuine love, Naomi slept like someone who'd finally been released from prison. The past was dead. Tomorrow, she would begin building something better. 3 months after the press conference, Naomi sat in an empty warehouse in Gangnam. Blueprints spread across a folding table, and made a decision that would change hundreds of lives. I want to buy this building, she told Sung-ho. He looked around the dusty space, then back at her. For what? A beginning. Her eyes were bright with purpose he hadn't seen since before the mall. I want to turn it into a shelter. Not just beds and meals. A full restoration center, housing, therapy, legal advocacy, job training. Everything I didn't have when Marcus left me with nothing. Sung-ho studied her face, seeing the shift from survivor to savior. Tell me what you need. Everything. She pulled out a notebook filled with detailed plans she'd been working on for weeks. Secure housing for up to 50 women at a time. Licensed therapists specializing in trauma. Legal team for divorce proceedings, restraining orders, custody battles, financial advisors to help rebuild credit, job placement programs. That's ambitious. It needs to be. Her voice was steady, certain. Because half measures don't save lives. I need comprehensive, wraparound support that treats women like they're worth investing in, not charity cases. Sung-ho smiled, the kind that only she ever saw. Soft, proud, completely devoted. How much funding? She hesitated. $5 million to start? Maybe more for ongoing operations. You'll have $10 million and unlimited operational budget. He pulled out his phone, already texting Ji-hoon. What else? Sung-ho, that's too much. It's not enough. He cupped her face. You're building something that saves lives. I would burn money to make that happen. This is an honor to fund. Tears pricked her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just build something extraordinary. I know you will. The Phoenix Rising Foundation opened its doors on a crisp autumn morning. The warehouse had been transformed. Bright, welcoming spaces with floor-to-ceiling windows. Private rooms with real beds, not bunks. A commercial kitchen. Therapy offices. Legal consultation rooms. A children's playroom for mothers escaping with kids. Computer lab for job applications. Meditation space. Art therapy studio. It looked like healing felt, safe, warm, possible. Naomi stood in the main lobby, watching the first residents arrive. Women with haunted eyes and trash bags full of possessions. Mothers carrying babies on their hips. Teenagers who'd aged beyond their years. Each one walked through the doors, shaking. Uncertain. Afraid this was temporary. That safety was an illusion. But Naomi met every single one personally. Learned their names, told them her story. Not to trauma bond, but to prove that resurrection was real. You will not just survive here, she told a young woman named Claire, who reminded her painfully of herself 2 years ago. You will rebuild, and when you leave, it will be because you're ready to fly, not because you're being thrown out. Claire cried. They all did eventually. But these were different tears. Relief, not despair. The foundation became Naomi's life's work. She wasn't just a figurehead. She was there daily, meeting residents, sitting in therapy sessions when invited, helping women navigate legal paperwork, celebrating when someone got hired or moved into their own apartment. The media covered it extensively. From victim to victor, how Naomi Park built an empire of hope. Invitations poured in for speaking engagements, interviews, panel discussions. Naomi accepted some, shared her story, but always redirected attention to the work, to the women, to the systemic changes needed. She became more than a survivor. She became a symbol of radical resilience. Proof that trauma didn't have to be the end of the story. It could be the beginning of purpose. Sung-ho watched it all with quiet pride. He attended the grand opening, stayed in the background, let Naomi shine. He funded every expansion, every program addition, every emergency need without hesitation. You built something beautiful, he told her one evening, watching her review applications for the Foundation's Legal Fellowship program. We built it, she corrected. I couldn't have done this without your support. You would have found a way. He kissed her temple. You're the strongest person I know. She leaned into him. I don't feel strong most days. I just feel purposeful. Like everything I survived was preparing me for this. That's what strength looks like. Naomi's phone buzzed with an unknown number one Tuesday afternoon. She almost deleted it automatically, assuming it was spam. But something made her open it. Naomi, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you owe me nothing. But I needed to say this one final time. I am sorry. Not because I got caught. Not because my life imploded. But because I finally understand the gravity of what I did to you. I've been in intensive therapy, working through my own trauma that I used as an excuse to traumatize others. That doesn't justify anything. But I wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. I saw the article about your foundation. What you've built is remarkable. You took the worst thing that happened to you and turned it into salvation for others. That takes courage I'll never possess. I hope you're happy. I hope that man treats you the way I should have. I hope you never think about me again. You deserved better. You always did. Marcus, Naomi read it twice. Waited for anger, for satisfaction, for anything. Still nothing. She pressed delete, and the message vanished. Sung-ho looked up from his laptop. Everything okay? Marcus sent a message, an apology. His jaw tightened. Do you want me to? I deleted it. She set her phone down. I don't need his apology anymore. I don't need anything from him. How do you feel? Free? She smiled, and it reached her eyes. Completely free. That night, wrapped in Sung-ho's arms in the home they'd built together, Naomi didn't dream about the past. She dreamed about the future, about the foundation expanding, about the women she'd helped save, about the life she'd built from ashes. Marcus was finally gone. Not because he'd been destroyed, but because he simply didn't matter anymore. And that was the truest victory of all. 1 year later, Foundation Expansion Gala. The ballroom glittered with Seoul's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast prisms of light across marble floors. 500 guests dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits gathered to celebrate the Phoenix Rising Foundation's 1-year anniversary and the opening of its second location. But Naomi wasn't nervous about the crowd or the cameras. She'd stopped being afraid of visibility months ago. She stood backstage in a burgundy gown that Sung-ho had commissioned specifically for. Tonight, elegant, powerful, entirely her. He adjusted her necklace from behind, his fingers gentle on her skin. Ready? He asked softly. She turned to face him. I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it. He smiled that private smile reserved only for her. Then go remind them why phoenixes are legends. Naomi walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. The audience rose to their feet, donors, volunteers, government officials, and most importantly, 30 women from the foundation wearing their finest clothes and proudest smiles. Women who'd walked through those doors broken and were now standing, rebuilt. Naomi waited for silence, then began. A year ago, I was forced to my knees in a public restroom by a man who believed I was worthless. Her voice carried across the ballroom without wavering. He thought he was reminding me of my place. He thought he was proving his power. She paused, letting the weight of that memory settle. He was wrong. Because that moment, that humiliation wasn't my ending. It was my awakening. Heads nodded. Women in the audience dabbed tears. For too long, I defined myself by what was done to me. I was a victim of financial abuse, a survivor of homelessness, a woman marked by trauma. She scanned the room, making eye contact with the residents from her foundation. But those labels were cages, and I refused to live in cages anymore. Her voice grew stronger. I am not a victim. Victims are powerless, and I hold power in these hands that once had nothing. She raised her hands, showing the platinum ring that symbolized safety and partnership. I am not just a survivor. Survivors simply endure, and I have done more than endure. I have transformed. The ballroom was silent, captivated. I am a woman who was destroyed and chose to rebuild, who was abandoned and chose to create family, who was humiliated and chose to stand taller. Her eyes found Sung Ho in the front row, and he looked at her like she was his entire universe. I am a wife to a man who proved that protection doesn't require possession. I am a founder of a movement that says broken women deserve restoration, not just survival. She gestured to the women from the foundation. We are not charity cases. We are warriors who refuse to die in our trauma. We are phoenixes rising from ashes that were meant to bury us. Standing ovation. Immediate, overwhelming. Naomi waited for it to quiet, then delivered her final words. One man tried to force me to drink from a toilet. But this year, I've watched 30 women drink from the cup of new beginnings. One man called me trash. But I've helped build a sanctuary where women are treated as treasures. One man tried to make me kneel. She paused, and her smile was radiant. But life forced me to rise, and now... She looked across the ballroom at the powerful, wealthy, influential people hanging on her every word. Now the world recognizes strength when they see it. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, Sung Ho found her on the balcony, overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. You were magnificent, he said, sliding his arms around her waist from behind. I meant every word. She leaned back against his chest. A year ago, I thought justice meant watching Marcus suffer. But real justice was building this, turning pain into purpose. You've saved lives, Naomi. Literally saved them. We've saved lives. She turned in his arms. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Your resources, your protection, your love. You gave me the safety to heal and the platform to help others. He cupped her face with both hands. You gave me something far more valuable. You gave me purpose beyond power. A reason to build instead of just control. You made me better. We made each other better. Equal partners, he agreed. Powerful together. Unbreakable. He kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise. Around them, Seoul stretched out in electric glory, a city they'd conquered not through fear, but through transformation. Inside the ballroom, a young woman named Sarah approached the microphone during the open testimony portion. She'd arrived at the foundation 6 months ago with $12, a black eye, and a 3-year-old daughter. Mrs. Park told me something when I first came here, Sarah said, voice shaking but determined. She said, you're not broken. You're breaking free. And she was right. Sarah looked directly at the cameras broadcasting live. To every woman watching who thinks she can't escape, who thinks she's too damaged, who thinks nobody will believe her, her voice grew stronger. There is life after abuse. There is power after trauma. There is a phoenix inside you waiting to rise. The ballroom erupted again. If you made it this far, you're not just a viewer. You're part of something whether you admit it or not. Every woman who survived abuse and rebuilt herself piece by piece sees herself in Naomi. Every person who's ever been underestimated knows exactly what this feels like. So comment below and tell me, what would your Phoenix story be? What would you rise from? And then subscribe. Because this community isn't built on casual viewers who take the emotional journey and leave. It's built on people who believe that your past doesn't define your future. That your story isn't over. That broken doesn't mean finished. If you believe that too, if you felt that in your bones watching this, then subscribe. Stop lurking. Stop taking without giving. This is your invitation to actually belong. Don't waste it. That night, trending worldwide, # Phoenix Rising, #Naomi Park, # From Ashes. To Empire news articles documented her journey. Think pieces analyzed her impact. Women across the globe shared their own survival stories, inspired by her transformation. But in their penthouse overlooking Seoul, Naomi and Sung-ho weren't watching the coverage. They were simply together. Her head on his chest, his arms around her, both of them at peace. "Do you ever think about that day in the mall?" she asked quietly. "Every day." His voice was solemn. "It's the day I almost failed to protect you." "No." She lifted her head to look at him. "It's the day you showed me I didn't need protection. I needed partnership. You didn't save me. You stood beside me while I saved myself." He kissed her forehead. "Then it's the day we both became who we were meant to be." Outside, Seoul hummed with life. The foundation's lights glowed in the distance, a beacon for women who needed hope. Marcus once forced Naomi to kneel on cold marble, believing he could shatter her permanently. But life, cruel, beautiful, redemptive life, had forced her to rise instead. She'd risen from homelessness to philanthropy, from victim to victor, from broken to unbreakable, from powerless to queen. And now, the world didn't kneel to her out of fear. They kneeled to her strength, her resilience, her refusal to let cruelty have the final word. Naomi Park, once destroyed, now unstoppable. The phoenix who turned her ashes into an empire.